our goals with this podcast is to normalize conversations about death, dying, and grief. We hope to do it through inspiring conversations and sometimes wit and humor. My whole life, I've identified as a storyteller. My two majors in college were journalism and theater, both careers focused on storytelling and not necessarily on gainful employment and high incomes. It was when my mom died that my true dharma, or life's mission, came clear to me. And it's what season 3 of Before You Go is all about. How to use the creative arts as a way to hold space for people's stories, especially the stories of people who have died. How can we share our collective knowledge of mortality to unite through the medium of storytelling and process our fears and griefs together? Well, my guest today, Elizabeth Coplan, is exploring that very question. Elizabeth also began her career as a struggling actor in New York City. She pivoted to the corporate world and then pivoted again when personal tragedy struck. She is the founder of Grief Dialogues, a creative space where the theatrical arts are the instruments through which death, dying, and grief are put on the stage and screen, allowing audience members to connect and process their own losses and fears. I'm excited for you all to meet Elizabeth and learn about the amazing work that she is doing. Welcome to Before You Go, the official podcast of Abode Contemplative Care for the Dying. At Abode, our mission is that we live in a world where death is not feared, and we live fully until we die. And we'd like to make that happen before we go. I'm Natalie Buster at Abode in San Antonio, Texas. Welcome to Before You Go. Hi, Elizabeth. How are you?
Hello. I'm doing great. I'm doing great. I'm here in Los Angeles. I'm very warm. Not as warm as you are, but I'm very warm. And I just want to add, I'm from San Antonio. So
I did not know
this is
that.
fun. Yes, I am.
Oh my
Um,
goodness.
so it's
What
fun to
part
be
of
able to
San
talk.
Antonio?
My father was military. We were over by Lackland Air Force Base.
Oh, yeah.
So
Oh,
yes,
wonderful.
my parents lived there till my dad died in '96, and then we moved my mom to Washington State, where my sons are her only grandchildren. But you know, have a lot of fond memories of San Antonio.
It's a special place. We're going to have you come and visit, especially
Oh,
with
I'd
the
love
work that
to.
you're doing. How cool would that be? And I
Yes.
know our listeners are like, well, tell us about this work. So, you've had such a prolific career. I was doing some research on you before we sat down to chat. And I wonder if you could take our viewers and our listeners through the different chapters in your life and what led you to founding the Grief Dialogues and all that has
Right.
come with that.
Sure, I'd be happy to share that story. It's kind of fun. I was a uh, too smart for my own good high school student in San Antonio, John Jay High School. And I went through high school in 3 years. And the thing that kept me sane during those 3 years, because I was bullied and, teased and all that good stuff, was the drama department. And I was an actor in the drama department. And you could be different people on the stage. You didn't have to be your own persona and so forth. And that really got, and the drama department was quite close. In fact, my best friend from my high school days was just visiting me, as she does every year and has done every year for the last 34 years. At any rate, the theater, I love the theater, and I went to college for theater, but after a year realized I didn't want theory. I wanted the actual acting. So I moved to New York City at the ripe old age of 18. What my mother was thinking, I have no idea. But off I went. And after 2 years of getting off Broadway jobs, as well as going to acting school and so forth, and piecing together, things like, working in the garment district for, very little money and so forth. I realized one day that I could either eat or pay rent. I could not do both. So I made my mom happy. I went to college and then went into marketing and public relations and had a 40-year corporate career, which I'm very proud of. But I
Mhm.
always thought I would go back to the theater. At first, I thought, oh, I'll do some community theater acting. And then the older I got, I thought, well, maybe I'll direct. And the older I got then, was like, oh, maybe I'll write something. So actually, I didn't write a play until 2010 when I had three deaths happen in my life in 1 year.
Mm.
And I was actually working at the University of Washington School of Law at the time. I was director of marketing there. And people knew I had been in Southern California. So when I got back and I was in the coffee room one day, someone asked me, gee, how was your vacation? What did you do? And I explained, well, I really wasn't on vacation. I was taking care of my cousin who was dying of ovarian cancer. My sister and I were there. And as soon as I said that, people started to back away. I was like, oh, I thought you went to Disneyland. I got to go. Oh, late for that meeting. And I realized in very short order that people did not want to talk about death, which I thought was extremely humorous because it's the one thing we're all going to do. We
Right?
just,
Yeah.
and I call it the great equalizer
Yeah.
because it doesn't matter. Jeff Bezos can have his big wedding and he's going to die like the rest of us.
Hmm.
So I had written I don't want to say a report, but kind of a report for my cousin and our family who couldn't be there. They were all in Missouri and they couldn't be there during Myra's final days. So they asked me, well, what happened? So I wrote it all out and they really they said, oh my gosh, I felt I was there and so forth. And it was at that time sharing the details, which was very authentic and very detailed. Not I didn't write it for a fact. I just reported the facts. But I realized there was kind of a play in this. And
Mm.
so with some encouragement from some theater friends on Bainbridge Island outside of Seattle, Washington, I turned it into a short play. And it wasn't about the death of the cousin, it was the death of the mother because cousins don't count quite as much in the theatrical world. And one of the things with 10-minute plays is the one thing you win is an opportunity to see your play staged. So
Mm.
I actually saw my play, and that one was called Hospice, a Love Story. And I've seen it performed across the country now in the last 10 years. And it was the cornerstone, it is the cornerstone of Brief Dialogues, the play, which we opened in August of 2016. And that is six short plays by six different playwrights because I didn't want it all to be my voice and my experience. And it was followed and interconnected with poetry. And that opened at the University of Washington for the Seattle Death Salon in 2016, as I mentioned. Then, and it was doing great in terms of performances. We were actually starting to work with hospitals and medical providers, the medical schools, and then COVID came. And I tried to transition to Zoom, and some plays worked and some plays didn't. But I put that aside and I actually dusted off another script that I had that was a full length play of my own, which then went on to have an off-Broadway debut in 2023. And that play is called Till Death.
Yes.
And it was actually nominated for a Pulitzer. So I didn't even make any finalist category, but the fact that
But
somebody nominated,
still,
I was pretty proud of that. Then COVID sort of, I don't want to say it's over because it's not, but
mhm.
it allowed us to at least walk around the cabin again. And my director, Danny Davis, said, you know what, nobody wants to sit and watch 6 to 9 plays about dying, death, and grief. Your audience must have agency. And I totally agreed with her. But I was like, okay, now how do we make that happen? And she came up with this brilliant idea of this immersive experience. So now it's Grief Dialogues, the experience. And I hesitate to say this, but it is coming to a city near you. I'm we actually have like 7 performances in the next year in 7 different cities. So it is happening. And anyway, I'll kind of stop talking there because I'm kind of battling on, but that's the way it
No.
feels. It feels like all of a sudden I'm drinking from multiple fire hoses because people really, really want that experience. They want to know they're not alone in their grief. They want to share their own stories, and that's what this does beautifully. And that was the very first lesson I learned
Mhm.
when I did Hospice, a Love Story. People would comment to me, not so much about, wow, that was the best play I've ever seen, but more like, something like that happened to me when my
Mhm.
mother was dying, and that my play gave them permission to share their stories. And
Mm.
that's what it's all about. That's all, the storytelling and allowing others to tell their stories. That's what we're here for.
Yeah, it's like it's giving people permission, and I love that that storytelling has changed for you. At first, when you told people about what you really did over your summer vacation, people backed away and found something else to keep busy with. And
Yes.
now people are leaning into that
Mhm.
conversation.
Mhm.
We've seen that a lot too. Whenever I tell people about this podcast or the work that I do telling stories of people who have died or going through grief, people want to share their own stories. And I
Right.
love that. I love the analogy used of drinking from multiple fire hoses, because that's it. It's like this release valve has been
Mhm.
opened, and people finally have the permission to share that
Mhm.
which they kept bottled up for so long.
Exactly.
Mm,
Exactly. Mhm.
yeah. Why do you think theater and the medium that you've chosen to share these stories, why do you think that's such a powerful tool for people?
That's a great question. I believe that theater is the best empathy generator. We see a story unfold on a stage, and we either it reminds us of ourselves, it reminds of a situation we've been in, or uh, or it's a brand new experience, but it allows the person sitting there watching it to be immersed, if you will, in the experience and feel what it's like a little bit more. And I think that also allows them to open up more about what they personally have experienced. And it could be, gee, that didn't happen to me at all, but this is what happened. So again, it's the conversation starter that's so important. And I think theater, and I'd say to a certain extent, film, but mainly theater, because you're in a space and you're there to watch, and you generally speaking do not get up and go to the bathroom or make popcorn or whatever you can do at a movie. It's you're right there and you're right in it. So I think it's just a natural empathy generator. I would love to know of any empirical studies out there that show definitely the impact of live theater. In fact, I'm hoping to do a study with a couple of universities on the impact of theater on palliative care.
Mhm.
And so I think it's more the opportunity to experience the story in real time, unlike theater I think that's what makes theater so important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know the studies, but I know that there have been certain people who have talked about how people who are watching a theatrical experience collectively, their heartbeats start to regulate, or
Mhm.
their heartbeats start to unite,
Unite.
beat at the
Hmm.
same time. And there's also like a respiration that happens. People are breathing in unison, and it's led
Yes,
by the actors on the stage. It's very magical.
it
And I
is.
think
It
I
is
love
very
film as
magical.
well, but I love, love, love theater. And
Right.
that's one of the things as an actor that we get it as well. So I'm
Mhm.
curious if you've also heard from the actors who have been in these plays. Have they experienced that kind of profound effect that the
They
audience members are?
they really have, in some extent, more. Uh,
Mhm.
for example, so I'm here in Los Angeles. My play, Let's Write a Musical, is opening this Friday.
Ah,
And the actor
congratulations.
who plays David, who dies, thank you, who plays David, uh, and he dies of cancer. And the actor just does a brilliant job of showing all the stages of his own grief and dying, and including hope. It's just very, very powerful to watch. And watching him act and then seeing him afterwards, you could tell it's having a profound effect on him, and he's looking at his own mortality through that. To a lesser degree, perhaps, I have a friend, for example, who's coming on Friday, and she lost her husband to cancer a few years back. And I kind of gave her a little trigger warning, but she said, I appreciate that you've uh, kind of warned me in advance. but I'm at that point where I too want to share my story, and seeing how another widow handled it, it really helps me.
Hmm.
So anyway, that's kind of where I'm at on the sharing of the grief and the stories,
Oh,
just
yeah.
expanding it wherever possible. I co-wrote this with Lori Chiaro. This is actually based on her true story. So going back to storytelling, when her husband received a terminal diagnosis, the two of them wrote a musical. And so, I mean,
Mm,
this really happened. Of course, the actual musical itself didn't come alive in their living room,
sure.
but unlike our stage version. But it's a storytelling, just with a capital S.
Oh my gosh. It's got to be so cathartic for everyone involved. Like the people who were pent up during the pandemic, who finally get to go out for a
Hmm.
night of theater
Hmm.
and be able to access those emotions, sadness, joy, hope, all of the things that you describe your play
Hmm.
having. And then also the playwright being able, you, the playwright, and your partner being able to experience that catharsis, the actors, the audience members. I mean,
Actors.
it's such a magical experience.
But and
Yeah.
actually, your comment too, how some of the other actors, some of them are too young, and not
Mhm.
too young, but they haven't experienced a significant loss. But maybe they lost a grandparent, but you know, nowadays maybe you weren't as close geographically, so it didn't have the
Mhm.
effect. So some of them haven't experienced that kind of grief. On the other hand, someone that I've worked with before, a director, she is now dating a widower. And
Mhm.
she said that if she hadn't been intimately involved in grief dialogues and kind of know what happens to people, she probably would have never accepted a date from him. But
Yeah.
now that she understands a little bit more what he's going through, not that she's going to psychoanalyze him or anything,
Hmm.
but just have that empathy towards
Hmm.
him, that he
Hmm.
lost his wife a few years ago and they had a lovely marriage. She feels better equipped to be a good friend to him,
Oh,
wherever it goes. So
that's
it
fantastic.
has a lot of effect on the people who work there, who work, the sound people, all the way
Mhm.
down to the ushers. Seriously.
Yeah. Everyone who walks through that door,
Mhm.
I can imagine. I wonder if you could share, an example of maybe how this work has really helped someone with grief and loss, and maybe it's the person, your partner, who wrote about her experience.
Right.
um yeah.
Well, actually, because when you ask that question, so many ideas
Sure.
come to mind. But if I'm going to use Lori, for example, she and her husband wrote this musical, and they then performed it in their living room. And they, Laurie remembers when he was going through his chemo treatment, and he was really sick, and so he would actually be, and he never sang a note in his life, by the way. So he would be like soaking in the bathtub, trying to keep the nausea at bay and so forth. And she'd be sitting there, sitting on the toilet, teaching him how to harmonize. And and then they got up in front of about 50 of their friends at a little cocktail party they had at their house. And everybody just loved it. And he did a great job singing. We actually have a recording
Oh,
of them
wow.
singing. And he turned to Lori and said, "This was more fun than our wedding." So, uh, so that meant a lot to her. Now, what really last night when I flew in and it was part of the tech rehearsal, Lori and I sat next to each other in the theater, and that's a line in the play. The
Oh.
the character says, "This is more fun than our wedding," and she just says, "I just love hearing that every time. It
Mhm.
keeps the memory of her husband, her late husband Ben, alive, and she just feels like he is there." uh, Kind of channeling through all this, and she feels not only catharsis,
Mhm.
but also kind of a, what do I want to say, coming full circle. I mean,
Mhm.
obviously, this isn't going to bring him back to life, but it does give a presence that she's able to associate with, and she just knows, she just feels it's so right. So the catharsis definitely
Mhm.
on so many levels, and then seeing and hearing your own words, it's pretty
Yeah.
powerful.
I can
I
imagine how powerful it is for her to see the actor playing her husband too. Because I've
Mhm.
always thought, like, when we tell the stories of the people who have died, they live on in a
They
way.
do.
And here it's really happening. There's an actor playing that character.
Exactly, exactly. And I just gave a keynote speech for the Portland Institute on Transition and Loss a couple of weeks ago, and I talked about it was for grief counselors, and I talked about writing monologues. And I had an actor perform a monologue she had written, and then I had the conference people write a monologue, and I had prompt questions and so forth.
Mhm.
What I got from that, speaking of evidence, was people coming at me afterwards saying things like, I was so mad when you called 10 minutes. When you called time, I didn't want to stop. I went back, I didn't go to lunch. I went back to my room and I continued writing the monologue. Or I came up with stuff I didn't even know I felt in writing the monologue. And there is something, I'm all for journaling, but there is something about writing a monologue, because writing a monologue gives you permission to be a little more dramatic, to be a little more in your feelings, hard feelings, a little more theatrical, if you will. Uh, and it really made a profound difference on these grief counselors. I have several of them contacting me like, would you read my monologue? And wow, I never thought this could happen to me, but my husband died 5 months ago, and last night after I wrote the monologue was the first night I'd slept through the night since he died.
Oh, wow.
So the act of writing the monologue, the act of
Yeah.
watching your monologue or hearing it, all of that leads up to incredible catharsis. And then followed by people watching someone else's experience on stage, but having those same feelings and those same
Mhm.
thoughts. Pretty
Mhm.
powerful, actually, watching it all happen. And
Oh
all
my
I
gosh.
ever wanted to do was be an actress,
Right. Yeah. You're
from San Antonio.
slinging burgers at,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
diner
yeah,
on the street trying to get your
yeah.
big break. But what I love that it's been just this wonderful full circle for you,
Mhm,
and being able to use your talents both in
mhm.
marketing, because your website's amazing, and we'll
Oh,
put that
thank
in the
you.
show notes.
Yeah.
But also just in getting the word out about these stories, and that's, I think, where all of your corporate knowledge comes into play, is really how do
Mhm.
you how do you tell the story? How do
Right.
you invite people to listen to these stories? And I think
Mhm.
that that's such a great combination of skills that who knew it would come
Who
together
knew?
like this.
Yeah, I can't believe
Um,
it's been 10 years.
I
Mhm.
know. I want to talk a little bit about the tour that you have coming. Tell us
Mhm.
and that's the Grief Dialogues, the Experience tour.
Grief Dialogues Experience, which is
Hmm.
actually some of them are topic specific, like just in Los Angeles in May, we did a Memorial Day version, and we
Okay.
will be doing a Veterans Day version in Cape Cod and Boston in
Mm.
November. But the full version is 9 short plays where everybody, the audience, sees the first play and the last play. And then the other plays are running simultaneously, so two at a time. And it's kind of a choose your own adventure feeling to it. And then it's interwoven with some poetry that's written for brief dialogues. And it actually culminates in a play that everybody comes to, and then a walk through this poetry strewn room, which all these poems are on like butcher paper draped all over with the little votive candles and things. So that it's kind of a lot, it's a bringing together of all the audience, and they feel free to talk to each other, talk to the person they came with, or not, talk to someone else, talk to a playwright. So that will happen. As I mentioned, Veterans Day will happen in Cape Cod and Boston. So the shows in that particular production are focused on veterans. But the full version, a little bit of everything, will
Okay.
be in New York City at the Frank E. Campbell Funeral Home. It will be in Sarasota, Florida at Treefort Theater in Sarasota, Florida. It will be in Detroit. That will happen November 20th. We don't have a location yet, but if you follow me, we will have it, or contact me. We are going to be doing it in Seattle next year and on Bainbridge Island outside of Seattle. And our big run, I feel like well, New York City, I think I got them all. But our big thing is we are planning to take the show next August to the Edinburgh Fringe Festival
Yes.
in Edinburgh, Scotland. My director, Danny Davis, and I were just in Scotland checking things out and trying to learn all we could. And we found producers who were just so encouraging and just felt that the grief dialogues model was definitely the the show to have at the Fringe. So we're very encouraged by that. That's our goal.
Oh, congratulations. We
Yes,
got to find
thank
a way
you.
to get to San Antonio too, because this is like, take my money. This is
Yeah.
amazing. I would love
Yes. Here, let me help you.
yeah, because I mean,
Yes.
really,
Hmm.
like you explained, like people get to choose their own adventure. They have this anchoring play that they watch
Hmm.
first, and then choose where they want to go, and then they're anchored again at the end, and then they have a chance to process it
Right.
in the poetry room. And I just
Mhm.
think, like, what an amazing experience. Like you
It
said,
really is.
immersive, which is, I think,
Hmm.
the direction that a lot of theater is going now, which I think is super effective.
Yeah, I do too. That actually seemed, and I did it because it lent itself well to the topic. But then
Hmm.
I started reading all these articles in American theater and whatnot, and immersive's the way to go.
Hmm.
So go
Yeah.
do.
And processing, mental health and the processing of grief
Mhm. Mhm.
and all of those emotions that come with the end of life and a
Mhm.
diagnosis. It's very timely. And I think
Right.
especially the people who go to theater were ready. We're ready for having that kind of experience.
Yes, I agree.
Gosh, what do you wish more people knew about having these conversations about death, dying, grief?
That's a really good question. There's actually two thoughts that come to mind, and I just forgot one of them, but it'll come back. But one is that I wish people realize that it's perfectly healthy and normal to have these conversations. Just because you talk about it doesn't mean you're going to die sooner. Or if you talk about one friend's husband's sudden death, that somehow your husband's going to die now. Or it's not contagious, that way. I mean, there's contagious diseases, granted, but it's okay to talk about it. I really wish people would not only talk about it, but lean into it a little bit more. The other thing I wish is that we did celebrate death as we celebrate birth. I'm all
Mhm.
for putting the fun back in funeral. I mean, I just really would like for people to see it's okay. It's a natural thing.
Yes.
I often will say, there was that old adage, there's nothing for certain except death and taxes. Well, now certain people have shown that taxes are not certain, but I guarantee you they will die.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Oh, that's so well put.
Yeah.
When you're doing this work, have you found a change within yourself in how you view your own mortality?
Absolutely. Actually, it's interesting. When I started this work, it was because I felt I couldn't talk about someone else's death. And sometimes death is very beautiful, and I just didn't feel I could share it with people. But the more I did it, the more I realized I was doing it for me and making death okay for me.
Mhm.
And especially as I age, my dad died when he was 65. So when I turned 70 a couple of years ago, I was like, okay, I'm on borrowed time here.
Mhm.
He died of cancer and he had underlying conditions that I don't have. But nonetheless, it just seemed like my time is now, we're counting down. And in essence, we are all counting down. So the one big change in me is that I really examine what I'm doing to make sure it is exactly what I want to be doing. I have been gotten much better at boundaries. I I weigh, is this really how I want to spend the last few years of my life? Are these people I really want to be around? Not, nothing against them, but we all only have the same amount of hours in the day. So really appreciating those hours and filling them with the type of work that I find fulfilling, or people I want to sit down and talk with, or topics I'm curious about. And I know, a lot of us have obligations and we have families and we have jobs, etc. But just carving out 10 minutes a day to read or do something or learn about something I'm interested in, that's become just a huge factor in what I get from doing this work.
Oh, Elizabeth, I think you are giving so many people the permission not only to chase your dreams, but to live each moment fully. And
Yes,
I think
absolutely.
sometimes it takes either something happening to us, maybe the
Mhm.
death of a loved one, like you said, you had 3 deaths in one
Mhm.
year, or it's being immersed in these stories that other
Mhm.
people are sharing that remind you why we're here and
Right.
the path, your dharma,
Yeah.
and your
Yes.
purpose of
Mhm.
being here. Yeah. Wonderful. Well, I could talk to you all day. I love this
I love it.
conversation so much. I have a couple questions that we ask all of our
Sure,
guests.
sure.
What is one way that you are filling your cup as you do this work?
To me, right now, with my husband and I have two adult children. The youngest one just got married, a beautiful wedding
Mm,
ceremony. The older one's been married. I'm now doing something I love doing, which is really doing the creative side of theater. I I am now part of a musical, and if anybody knows me at all, the fact that I'm involved with a musical, thank goodness I'm not writing the music or singing, but that is almost like a dream come true, something I never thought I would do. So to answer your question, everything I'm doing fills me
mhm,
up right now. I
mhm.
There's nothing new. In fact, I better not add anything more. But there's not something out there I wish I was doing. I'm doing it,
Mm,
which is
what a
real.
great
And
answer.
to your point, I said when I retired from the corporate world, I said to my husband, I'm only going to do this for a couple of years. That would have put me in 68, and then I kept doing more of it. And you know, this year is the first year I'm actually breaking even as far as, at least getting my travel expenses paid. But it's a passion, and it's my love of theater and love for trying to show people that we love and care for them, especially when they're struggling over grief or, of their own illness. And so I guess I just want people to see that you can keep going. You
Mhm,
don't have to dry up. You can,
mhm,
maybe it's baby sips, maybe it's a dream you had when you were 16, but it's still kind of there,
mhm.
and just go for it.
Hmm. I am going to have this podcast on repeat and listen to it frequently to remind
Yeah.
myself. Because there's something about you, Elizabeth, and it's like you have this glow about you. Those of you who are watching on video can see it. She has this glow about her. And I think that comes from having a path, a
Mm,
purpose, a passion that
mhm.
that is also filling your cup. It's not work. It's just
Not work.
it's this never ending refilling cup that just
Hmm.
keeps that vibrancy in you. And I think that's such a great example for all of
Well,
us.
thank you for the compliment. I realized when I got on camera that I hadn't put any makeup on or anything,
I
so
would
I
never
was like,
know.
whoa, whoa. But I will say, my husband will sometimes, 5, 6 o'clock, he'll come out wherever I am, and he'll go, "So you're going to stop working now?" And I'll go, "I never started. If you want me to stop doing what I'm doing, I can do that. And we can have a nice evening together. But I haven't worked all day. I've just
Yes.
done my
That's
thing,
the
which is
key.
wonderful."
I was talking to my friend who she started her own yoga business, and she's like, "I don't work. This is play. I'm
Hmm.
playing.
Hmm.
We can call it work because it's bringing in some money sometimes,
Right,
but it's
right,
but
right.
it's
Sometimes.
really it's joy. It's pure
Mhm.
joy,
It
and
is.
that's what I
Oh,
see.
perfect word. Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm.
If people
Absolutely.
want to connect with you, find out about this tour, find out about all the great work that you're doing, what's the best way that
Right.
they can read that?
Probably the best way is to go to griefdialogues.com, and that has everything on there. We got four major things we're doing right now, including a film called My Guardian Angel, which is an incredible story that a 14-year-old girl wrote about the loss of her friend when she was 5, and it's now going on to win awards.
Mm,
So My Guardian Angel, we're the producers on that. And then we have Let's Write a Musical, which is why I'm here in LA. Then we also have Brief Dialogues, The Experience. And we have a film called Honoring Choices that's starts conversations about advanced care directives. So you can see everything we've got going on, the dates, or you can follow us on Facebook, Grief Dialogues, Instagram.
thank
But
you. Yes.
we're always looking for stories and poems. If you go on the website and you go under art, you can see the stories. You can see the journal, which is generally resources that other people submit. I mean, obviously it's curated and so forth,
Mhm.
but we're always looking for people to share their stories.
Oh, that's what it's all about, isn't it? It's
Mhm.
just connecting through stories.
Absolutely.
Well, you kind of answered it, but I ask it anyway because I ask everybody. Elizabeth, what do you want to do before you go?
Mhm. Well, okay, I'm going to answer yours kind of backwards, but my husband and I, we are the same age, and we were talking not all that long ago where we both feel like we've lived a really incredible life, And we're very, we have wonderful sons who've married wonderful people. And we really enjoy what we're doing. We don't live fancy, but we live nice and well. We eat well. And do I want to die today? No, I don't. But if I did, if I got hit by a car or suddenly got a diagnosis, I would be sad. I don't want to go, but I feel like I've done everything and a whole lot more than I set out to do. So maybe I didn't make that Academy Award winning actress that I wanted to be when I was 17, but life is just so full and wonderful lots and lots of love. I just can't imagine a single thing that I would want to do more of.
Oh,
So
that's
now
like
I'll get
the
struck by lightning and it'll be all over. But
right, right. What a great answer though, because you're
Mm,
living it. You're living it.
yes.
So every day,
Mhm.
like we said with the filling the cup, you're doing it. So
Yes.
there's no last
Beautiful
wishes, there's no
feeling.
like bucket list. It's happening right now. That's pretty
Yes.
exciting. That's
It
pretty
is very
amazing.
exciting. Very exciting. Yes.
Oh, Elizabeth, thank you so much. I
Oh,
just
thank
adore
you.
you.
Oh,
What a great
Natalie, same
conversation.
here. And anybody want to do this in San Antonio, just let me know. Like I said, my best friend since we were 13, uh, it lives in San Antonio, and I would be more than happy. And we do it anywhere, by the way. These shows, these grief dialogue shows.
Yeah.
Yes, we can do it in the regular theater, but we also do it at funeral homes and
Yeah.
hospitals and you name it. So somebody's interested, just let me know.
You're getting my wheels turning.
Oh,
All
good.
right.
Yes.
Thank you
Thank
so
you
much.
so much. Have a beautiful day.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Before You Go, the official podcast of Abode Contemplative Care for the Dying. At Abode, we believe death is not a medical event, and we are not medical professionals. We're just sharing our opinions, and these opinions shouldn't be taken as medical advice. You can find us online on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. This episode was edited by Make Your Day Richer.